Today I will give an insight of the processes and theories we never think of when entering a company in real life. In my daily routine, I wake up, go by bus to the train station, get a cup of coffee at Starbucks and continue my way to work by train. For dinner I will go to McDonald's and eventually I go home for my night rest. I have now arrived at Starbucks. Starbucks is known for the high quality of coffee beans. Starbucks was invented in 1971 in Seattle and is now a worldwide operating business. Since Starbucks is a worldwide operating business, we believe we can link this to the contingency theory. This because each country has its own culture looking at the work field. For instance, America is a very tough country, whereas the Netherlands is a very tender country. The managers have to adjust their management style differently. If the headquarters of Starbucks in America decides that Starbucks needs to be more sustainable, different processes needs to get started. The government rules are different in each country and isn't that easy to apply. When ordering a coffee, Starbucks gives the customer two options. The customer can either choose to bring their own coffee mug or reusable cup, or Starbucks provide a one-time use paper cup. When we hear the word paper cup, the first thing that comes up in our mind is sustainability. That is why we did research and observation. Before we went to a Starbucks location, we did a website research. The information that is provided by Starbucks is that they implement sustainability through recycling in their business. Starbucks has created front of store recycling, meaning that they have separate bins for the separation of waste. Think of paper, organic and others, to make the recycling process easier. With this information, we could go to our next step, which is visiting their stores. At the first location, there were no signs of separate waste bins. We interviewed the manager who told us it was very hard to actually be sustainable, since their store is located in an NS building. The NS building has their own rules regarding the waste disposal what Starbucks need to follow. The manager said only stores who are located in a city are free from any rules of an overlapping company. To get a better view of Starbucks, we went to a Starbucks located in a city center. Again, we held an interview with the manager of the store, who told us that she was not allowed to tell us a lot about the recycling process. In her opinion, the store was not that sustainable. The only sustainable process she could think of was that their Starbucks collected coffee pots, who are picked up once a week to use as an organic waste for the growth of mushrooms in a local area. The collection was only executed in that particular store and nowhere else. Again, in the second location of Starbucks, there was no sign of separate waste bins. To explain the recycle process, we have created the life cycle assessment of a paper cup. It all starts with wood. Wood is processed into pulp and eventually manufactured into paperboard. The paper cups that have been made are transported to all Starbucks stores. The paper cup is used by the customer who orders the coffee. The consumer will throw away the cup in store or outside the store. When the cup is thrown away in store, the recycling process kicks in. When there is a separate waste bin for paper cups and other paper materials, these can be recycled and converted into other material like napkins. A solution for the paper cup is the reusable cup. You can buy and use your own reusable Starbucks cup or bring your own thermo mug. In this way, the customer does not have to use the paper cup. When we look into the customer's perspective, we believe that Maslow's need hierarchy can be linked to Starbucks. We ask ourselves, why do we buy Starbucks coffee? When we see Starbucks, we feel the need of drinking. We think of the paper cups with our names on it. It makes us feel special, loved, and we feel welcomed by Starbucks. The employee asks the customer for their name, which makes it personal. When entering Starbucks, the customer has the feeling that they're at home, which makes them feel safe. There are magazines on the tables, free Wi-Fi, and comfortable seats. The customer knows they are still in public, that's why they accept that there is a lot of chatting going on, or that they cannot put their music very loud. Hereby they respect others. I will now travel by train to work in Vlaardingen. I have worked at Argos Health Facility for a couple of years now. This specific location is a combination of health facility and rehabilitation center. The Argos Health Facility needs to modernize simultaneously with the modern technologies, but with keeping a close eye for the privacy of patients. The privacy is a right set by the government and is stated in Article 10 of the Dutch Constitution. If the Argos Health Facility will cross this right, they may need to close down. To work with the newest technologies without breaking the privacy of patients is a difficult and everyday job of Argos. The most used technology is called domotica. Argos is using this domotica in several situations. For example, to lower the cost and due to low capacity of staff, the Argos Health Facility is using domotica to keep track of the movements of the patients. This can be done by several different sensors. These sensors will send a notification to the nurses that are responsible to react on the movement. This is sometimes necessary if the patients need to stay down, otherwise he or she will hurt himself or herself. These technologies can be as small as the sensors and as big as a whole tracking system that exactly knows where every patient is. Healthcare is a sector which is greatly influenced by the government. Different laws, rules, and regulations affect the organizational behavior within the company. For example, when the government decides that the elderly should move 20 minutes a day, the health facility should adapt their way or working with the few people that have or start working with the system like domotica to meet the government regulations. This is a never-ending process according to the facility manager of Argos. The government continues to inspect if new rules and regulations are met to improve the quality of the healthcare. This requires a flexible way of working, which can be more difficult for employees who are working at the health facility for a longer time. Hereby, working with freelancers become more and more attractive. Argos Health Facility needs to change. They receive less money from the government because they had to cut down their expenses. Argos needed to do research in how to change their organization in order to keep financially feasible. One way to do research was to use action research. Action research is used to make changes in its own organization. Argos Health Facility could work with two different methods, quantities and qualitative. Argos used a combination of the two to achieve the best result for the organization, working together with the elderly and their relatives, but taking into account the regulations of the healthcare industry. Talking to the employees on the work floor, setting up a survey, collect data and arrange focus groups for new ideas and input. This way, the solution of changing from a health facility to a nursing home was the best option, looking at all aspects and circumstances. As the personnel of the Argos Health Facility is dealing with a vulnerable group of elderly, the chance that an incident can happen is always present. Not every staff member has received the same amount of medical training, and the big question point lies in the fact to what extent untrained personnel can intervene in situations that require extensive medical knowledge. The procedure is as follows. When the nurses who are responsible for the departments are not present, and an accident occurs when, for example, only the cleaner is present, the ambulance will always be informed. The ambulance is present 24/7 and is the person with the highest medical training. After calling the ambulance, only an employee with the right medical training may react with the medical treatment. Other employees may not use any medical treatment. An untrained employee can of course try to stop the bleeding but cannot provide more extensive medical treatment. Mistakes made by the staff are inevitable. Sometimes it might occur that a patient is giving the wrong medicine. The procedure is as follows. The patient is examined and the results are noted down in a MIC. A MIC is an abbreviation of the notification Incident Client Care. In the MIC there will be a small interval investigation to find out what went wrong and why. If the mistakes are small, the Argos Healthcare is not obliged to inform the government. When the mistakes have a large impact and result in extensive problems with the patient, the government officials must be informed. They will decide if they will conduct further research, for example when the case is contributory negligence. During the interview with the facility manager of Argos Health Facility, it became clear that the hierarchy was high and the span of control low. The organizational chart, the hierarchy and the span of control are based upon the different departments of care. Due to those separations, the hierarchy is high. A question or remark from the employee needs to go through layers of management to eventually reach the board. This can take up to several weeks. A direct effect of the high hierarchy in the case of Argos is a low span of control. The goal of Argos for the upcoming years is to create more flat organizational chart with less layers of management and a higher span of control, to reduce the time of decision making and lower cost, what both will have a positive effect for the patients of Argos health facility. As an example to illustrate this, we show the span of control of the facility manager of the Argos location Marnix. The facility manager has 30 employees to manage. In theory, this is a lot, but practically this is different. The facility service is divided into several sub-departments, each being led by its own first employee or floor manager. These floor managers manage the daily business in their departments. Via this way, the span of control is brought down and broken into pieces. As we said before, the result is that the employees have another layer of management to report to, which makes it more complex. Argos is a Dutch-based health facility, totally focused on law systems of the Netherlands and its health insurance. Because the health insurance regulations of the Netherlands is extremely different compared to other countries, relocating Argos will be simply not work. There will be too many differences in the regulations. Relocating will not be feasible, and so it is better to stay in the Netherlands. If it is not possible to bring Argos abroad, we need to focus to expand in the Netherlands. To find out if it's feasible to expand in the Netherlands, we focus on the economical gain for Argos health facility. The income of Argos is totally dependent on the elderly who are in need of healthcare. Elderly will get a health indicator from the government. A health indicator will grant the elderly a specific level of care. With a health indicator of 3, the elderly will make use of a health facility and get the standard health from the caregivers. The government was socially focused on their healthcare. This can be seen as a classical approach. Nowadays, the government has changed their policy towards the healthcare. The government is now using a more Keynesian approach and cuts down the budget for the social healthcare. That is why the government will not grant a compensation for the elderly with a health indicator of 3 that often anymore. For the Argos health facility, this results in a huge profit loss. We advise the Argos to transform to a nursing home rather than expand, otherwise the Argos would not be economical feasible anymore.